Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And today on Take 5 with Steven Travers, Steven brings a guest to us that we've never had before. That's one. Two, you're going to love it. There's a unique aspect of being able to be in the entertainment business and that world, and whether it be professional sports or anything even related to it, that Bradley Thomas Cole has crossed over on numerous occasions, and we're delighted to have him. So, Steven, first and foremost, how did you and Brad get to become friends to where he would actually agree to be on the show on Take 5 with Steven Travers today? That took more than probably anything.
Well, the simple fact is, Harper, you go through life and you have friendships. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you have quite a few friendships. And then there are a few people who are more than friends. And those people are literally family. And the man we're looking at today, Brad Cole, is a member of my family. He and his brothers, his sister, both of his parents who are not with us today, they're all members of my family. And Brad is a member of my family. And that's a very rare thing. We had Terry Marks on a few months ago, maybe a month and a half. I would rate him at that same level of friendship. And that's where Brad is. And I think everybody in his family, his brothers, they would all say that I'm a member of their family. That's just the way it was. And Brad is a Renaissance man. He's an athlete. He is a person that I look up to and admire greatly. He has had ups and he's had downs, and the way he's handled his life, mostly what I really love about Brad is the way he's handled some of the downtimes in his life, because that's the true mark of a real man. It's the way he was raised by his father, by his mother. And I'm really proud to call him my friend. And today, Brad, welcome to Take 5 with Steven Travers.
Wow. Praise indeed. Thank you, Steve. And yes, we are family. And you go through life, and when we get to our ages, Harper, you're maybe a little younger than us. It's so nice to have someone that you, other than a family member, and I happen to be very close to my family, and I feel fortunate because I speak to many people who are not. And to have extended family and friendships that last throughout a lifetime, it's really very special, and you can really count them on one hand. At least I can only count them on one hand. So, Steve, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be here, and honor to have you as my friend.
Well, guys, that's very touching. We're going to have a big group hug, all of that. But I'm imagining there was more that began the relationship between the two of you than just the fact that, you gazed into each other's eyes and said, you know what, I need a friend. I think there might have been a little bit of baseball involved with that. Steven, is that how you and Brad first met? Was it on a diamond somewhere?
Absolutely how.
There you go.
It actually started, Brad moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area, San Francisco. And of course, he was a baseball player. And we were 13 years old, and it was called the San Anselmo Senior League. And my dad was the manager of our team, Tavegia and Versati. And Brad was, because he was new, he was trying out for a position or to be drafted by one of the teams. And my dad says to me, there's a new kid named Cole from Los Angeles. He looks pretty good. And I said to my dad, well, draft him. And he says, I don't think we're going to get to him because everybody else thinks he looks pretty good and he's going to be drafted. And you were drafted. So you went into that league, and we knew of each other, but didn't know each other personally. So we fast forward 2 years, and we're freshmen at Redwood. This might have been basketball or maybe baseball. As fate had it, Brad lived closest to me, and he would take the bus home, and my mother would pick me up, and Brad would ask for a ride home. So we'd be standing in front of the Redwood High School gym waiting for my mother. And I've spoken to people at church about, they say, well, I've got kids in high school. and they're having a hard time making friends. And I say, the way you will know that you have a friend is if your friend thinks that you're Bob Hope or Johnny Carson. Because I would crack these jokes, these weird, ironic jokes that other people would look at me like, what's this guy talking about?
Yeah.
And Brad would laugh as if I was Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And he would say jokes, and his acting career started at age 14, standing in front of the Redwood Gym. We would do skits, we would do jokes, we would do physical comedy that rivaled Jerry Lewis. It was just immediate. It was just absolutely immediate. And then as soon as I met his family, his brother, his brother Jeff, his younger brother Darren, fell in love with everybody. And it was just an incredible experience.
Brad, what was that like for you as a 12, 13-year-old? You move, you're the new kid in town, you got to try out for a baseball team. There's got to be a little nerves. You don't know anybody yet, but the fact that you could play and you were pretty good and there were other folks that might be drafting you for the tryout and all that kind of stuff, that had to be a little bit reassuring, right?
Yeah, I was just happy to find a place to play. I started playing baseball like many people in Little League. So I was 8 years old down in Woodland Hills. I was a pitcher right away, I guess, because I was a lefty. And I just loved the game. I just couldn't wait to get onto the field. And then we moved to Encino. This is in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California, in Los Angeles. And at the time, so this is so many years ago, it was called the Central Valley League, which now, it was called West Valley Little League, which is now the center of the valley, because there was really nothing much to the west of that back then. Anyway, really met some good coaches down there. LA had a lot of good athletes and a lot of good coaching in this area, and really got some good coaching about how to throw, how to the basics, the fundamentals. And so when I moved up to Marin County, I dare say I was pretty good. And I was a lefty, though. And these teams were recruiting me. So the team that I got on, I think, was Home Market. Wasn't it, Steve? I think it was Home Market it was called.
It sounds about right.
That was our sponsor. And they put me at shortstop.
Is that like a Chico's bail bond from, remember
Yes.
the Bad News Bears? You had
Exactly.
Yeah, you had their
Home
logo
Market.
on your jersey.
What was your team, Steve?
Taveggi and Brasati. Otherwise,
Oh, that's right. So they were the sponsors. And so that, can you imagine, they put me at shortstop, a lefty, because of my arm. I guess I had a good arm. Yeah. And I could even make the play in the hole. So of course, I would spin, catching it with my right hand, and throw the guy out at first. And then the double play didn't bother me too much. But anyway, can you imagine a left-handed shortstop? So, and that's where...
Yeah, you catch as catch can, right? Hey, I'm athletic enough to do it. That's your problem that you don't like me being a right-hander, but I can do it, right? And you responded.
There you go. So that led to... So that was tremendous fun. Those were the days, you'd ride your bike to the field. And I remember seeing, various people, Steve being one of them, because he was a very large kid, as he's a large man now. So he stood out. He was a good pitcher in the league. And then we had another guy. There was various characters in the league. So Steve and I would be able to talk for hours about these characters, but we'll spare you that. Then we went to Redwood High School, which happened to be the place for baseball. And as it turns out, the place for baseball, high school baseball in the country. We didn't know that at the time, but there was a coach. And I say that because they won, and I'm sure you've heard this story from Steve before, the mythical national championship. And I think that was in 1977. Anyway, backing up. So that's where a coach named Al Endress, who was just phenomenal coach. I learned more from that guy about baseball and about the discipline of baseball, about the fundamentals of baseball. We had to go into a classroom. And for, what was it, Steve, a week or at least a week, hell week, and we would study. They would show films. I remember seeing Johnny Bench and all these guys, and we would just study film. This is high school. We're like freshmen and 16 years old, 15 years old in high school. I was blessed to be a part of that program. And that's where Steve and I became good friends, as he was explaining to you.
Brad, I would assume the old adage, you can't teach what you don't know. When Al Landers teaches you what he knows and he transfers, you may not receive all of it, but at least there's stuff. Was there ever like the wonder moment where you go, I didn't even know that I didn't know this, but he's talking about, how to do a pitch out or what the catcher steps are going to be on a throw down to second, and how you as a pitcher can pause, especially as a lefty, you can hold the runner on for a split second longer. And that may be the difference between if he tries to steal, getting him out, and him getting a base on you. Just little intricacies. Is that what the Hell Week and everything was, just to teach you stuff that you needed to know to be a better ball player?
Absolutely. Well, the Hell Week, we studied film and went into the class. So you're losing me. And took tests. What do you do with the first and third situation? Blah blah blah. I mean, we took. And then Hell Week, of course, we didn't even touch a baseball. It was like being in the Marines. We would run and run and run and do physical exercises. They would time our 40-yard dash and so on and so forth. And we didn't even touch a baseball for after that week. Anyway, it was legendary. But to your point, was there an aha moment? We were all too nervous when we went onto that field, we were expected to know all this and to perform. There was no second chances. You had to perform. And if you didn't, you weren't going to play, or there was help to pay, and you would be embarrassed because he would let you know. So it was tough. We had to have our hair cut. I remember like a Marine. Later, that was disputed by a couple of people. That's another story. But we were pristine. The uniforms had to be perfect. The stirrups had to be perfect. The shoes had to be polished. It was that kind of a discipline and that kind of a team. And I don't see a lot of that nowadays.
Interesting. Steven has mentioned some of that before. Steven, what did that bring back in memories for you? And that, oh man. And then on top of all that, remember that time when Al did this with us?
Yeah, it was. And again, I think a lot of this really speaks to the fact that Brad became an actor, because we would do Al Landers imitations. This is all behind his back. And we would create conversations that we would have supposedly with Al Landers. And I can't get into every detail of it. We'd be here all day long. But he was this absolutely larger than life figure. I mean, first of all, you have to understand he had played baseball under Branch Rickey with the Dodgers, and he had played for the San Francisco 49ers in pro football. And he was about 6'2" and maybe 195, but all muscle. And he was intimidating. He looked like a mafia don or an Indian chief. He did. Deep, dark, a loud voice, and he would somehow do this whistle, and it would break through the wind and the fog and scare the bejesus out of you. So Brad was absolutely right. You were competing against unbelievably great players. You got there, you knew that the older guys were spectacular, and then you would quickly realize some of the people maybe you hadn't grown up with, who were your age, were fantastic. Among those players were guys like Bud Biancalana, who later was the star of the 1985 World Series. He's just one example, but there were many players at the same level as Bud Biancalana. And obviously, you have to have talent to win. We had the talent, and we sure won. It was an amazing time.
Brad, you mentioned the word discipline. I know we're going to talk about your music and your acting career. There's a certain aspect of discipline in that I need to do the right thing at the right time. I need to do it the right way. I need my shoes to be spit shined. I got to have my hair cut a certain way. That you may not like the discipline, but there's a reason and a method behind the madness. Can you talk a little bit about how that instilled in you the ability to say, okay, coach, even though I don't like it, I'm going to do it your way, because I realize that it's going to make me a better player? And is there some aspect of that that's true with you?
Yeah, I come from a family that we had a lot of, well, there were four boys and a girl, and my father was in the military. He graduated from Kings Point Merchant Marine Academy, and then he uh, joined the Navy and finally the Navy Reserve and raised to the rank of commander. So I remember him at a very young age lining us up as the kids. I think there's a film like that somewhere, but yeah, it was The Sound of Music. So it was that he would line us up. My mother would be there, and he'd come home and he'd go down one by one. What'd you do today? And if you did anything wrong, there was hell to pay. And so I was highly disciplined or taught that my whole life. So, and I accepted it. I didn't really have a choice. So for me, the discipline that Al Endress was instilling in all of us, it was all natural to me. It seemed natural to me. And yes, to your point, I did see the logic. I did see, well, the result is undisputable because he was a winner. The team won, and the team presented itself in a certain way that intimidated other teams. Right, Steve? I mean, we would come on the field. We would run a drill called the 3-and-1 infield drill? We'd have three balls going at one time, and trust me, if anyone messed up in that, you just did not want to even think about it. So three balls. The other team would see this before we've even started the game and would just be, I mean, I think half the game was won right there at infield. So anyway, to your point, yes, I did see the value of the discipline. I did not have a problem with it myself at all. I consider myself a disciplined person and conduct my life that way. And it certainly has helped me.
Sure.
And then, also, Brad came from a very strict Catholic family, just like you did, Harper. So that was a part of it.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get to Brad's music and why we're here. But before we do that, I want to stay in a sort of a chronological point. So we're going to get to your music and we're going to get to Pepperdine baseball. But let's stay in high school, because this is really where, aside from the crazy skits that you and I did, you also started acting in high school. You had a younger brother named Darren who had the bug. He just loved to act, and he was an outstanding actor. I mean, I remember seeing Darren in Our Town, which was a Thornton Wilder play. I think he was a sophomore, and I came home. I said, Brad's younger brother is going to be on Broadway someday. I said to my mom, and he did, as a producer at least. But we'll get to that later. But you also acted, aside from the baseball. What was the influence of Darren in terms of getting you interested in doing that and going out for the play at Redwood?
Just the fact that he was in it. And so he said, oh, they're looking for a guy to play Joe the paper boy. So come on in and do it with me. And I said, okay. But it actually, it goes back further than that, the music and the acting. So back in Woodland Hills, I was talking to you about, that's where I went to kindergarten and up to first grade. And I think it was 8 years old. My brother Jeff, actually, my older brother Jeff, was given a guitar and was given guitar lessons. And I was really jealous. I loved this guitar. My mother had gotten this guitar. It was a nylon string guitar. And so I begged and begged and begged to let, so that I could go with Jeff to the lesson. So I did. And Jeff sort of let the guitar go and I didn't. So I continued with the lessons for a little bit down there. This was the time of this, I hate to give away my age, but this is the 60s. So imagine what was happening musically, culturally, everything that was going on. So all of that, the music, and my parents had this great collection because they were both very musical. My father played a little bit of the piano. We always had a piano in the house. And we would always play these great records. So I'm talking about anything from Trini Lopez to Mitch Miller to The Doors. You know, there's a wide range of music. And so I wouldn't let that guitar go. And that's when I really got hooked on the guitar and playing music. Back to Darren, just so going forward quite a bit. Darren met one of our teachers, Steve, that we both had, Joe Wadlington, who was we were surrounded by a lot of great minds and talent. We were very fortunate growing up to have people like Al Anderson. This guy, Darren, he sort of molded Darren and threw him up on stage, and Darren was a big hit in our town and became so hooked on theater. He went to USC, studied theater there, and then went to New York and is still in New York and traveling the world now, producing plays.
Yeah. Well, you talked about Redwood, and obviously it's baseball. Redwood has acting tradition. There are not one, but 2 Academy Award winners who went to Redwood. David Strathairn, who won an Academy Award for Good Night and Good Luck, went to Redwood, and Robin Williams won an Academy Award, I think, for A Good Will Hunting, and he went to Redwood. So there was a lot of, and of course, American Graffiti had been filmed in Marin using lot of high school kids from another school, Tamalpais High. That's where Kathleen Quinlan got her start. So it was in the air. Okay, now, before we move on to Pepperdine, Logan, if you would tee up the next song. Now, Brad, I believe the song is called On a Summer Night, correct?
That's right.
Okay, before we play it, give me the name of your album that's going to be coming out in a few months.
Okay, thanks. So you're about to watch On a Summer Night. My album is coming out. It's called Desert Dreams. I've been working on it for over a couple of years now. And it's really me reminiscing about kind of like the times we're talking about. And but really the Southern California experience and the Southwest experience. And I wanted to create this sound and this feeling of the Southwest, the desert, south of the border, Herb Albert, the 60s sort of sound. And that's what we were going for with this whole album. And this is a great example of that, On a Summer Night.
Well, I was very privileged to have an opportunity to review most of your songs a few months back when you sent them to me and asked my opinion, which I think I'm very appreciative that you felt that I had something to offer, and I liked them immediately. And they're so you, Brad, and they are so part of, your vibe. And we're going to tell the audience where they can get your music later, but tell us the name of the website where they can get it.
BradleyColeMusic.com. You can find all kinds of stuff there. Yeah.
Thank you. It's BradleyColeMusic.com. We're going to listen to On a Summer Night. This is the video. And then later we're going to hear the audio of On a Country Road at Night, which I have some questions about. Wonderful song. There's some lyrics in there that I really like. But let's hear On a Summer Night by Mr. Bradley Cole.
Wait, sorry. Hello, everybody. Okay, go ahead.
There you were in front of me. Then you walked by pretending I didn't see that look in your eyes, the way you smiled. Caught you stare, you didn't hide. I took your hand and felt our souls collide. On a summer night, we took a ride. And if true love was meant to be, It was that night with you. When you came to me, I knew that I want you, and I need you, and I want one more chance on a summer night. If I could turn back time, yes, I want you, and I need you, and I want one more dance and to see your eyes on a summer night. You were there next to me. I looked into your eyes, I swear I could see to the end of time. Baby, you were mine. Yes, you were my destiny. I was too blind to know how it hurt to see you go. Now I want you, and I need you, and I want one more chance on a summer night. On a summer night, you were there, and we were alone, ready to share it all. Yeah. And I would give anything to be back there with you. But now I'm left to sing the blues. And I want you, and I need you, and I want one more dance and to see your eyes on a summer night. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, on a summer night. And I want you, and I need you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I like it, man. That's a unique sound. You've got your Stratocaster going. You said
Yeah.
you wanted a unique sound with there. What a little bit of the Spanish flavor, but also just a basic Fender guitar and just playing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
When you start creating music, is that something that's really important to you, or do you just say, "Look, I've got this song. I'm going to let the other people, the engineers, and all that," or do you really dive deep into it? No, I want it to sound like this. No, not that. This, right? Are there very specific things that you look for?
That's a great question. Yes. So that's I'm not always loved in the studio either.
Sure.
Yeah, I specifically am going for a sound on that particular song. So I recorded this album in Nashville, and my very first album I recorded in Nashville over 30 years ago. And there's some great musicians that played with me. They were the session guys du jour back then. And one of them, his name is Kenny Greenberg. He's one of the great session guys of all time. So my idea was, let's go back to Nashville and let's find these players if we can. And most of them were there. So I got Kenny Greenberg. I got Steve Turner on drums, who's played with, if you look these guys up, they've played with everybody.
Yeah.
Dave Pomeroy, who happens to be the president of the Musicians Union there now, on bass. And I was looking for Johnny Neal, but Johnny Neal, God rest his soul, he passed away that year. So I was unable to get him. Anyway, got these guys all back together all these years later, and we recorded 18 songs in 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
That's the way they do it there. That's the executive producer who was paying for all this was saying, no, we need all. So, but that doesn't faze these guys at all. They're used to that. So this particular song that we just heard, though, I am doing everything except for the drums. So I'm playing the guitars, and doing all the vocals, the bass, and with the drums we put on later. So I had complete control of this one, and I got the sound that I wanted to, and on all the others too. But the others, there's a lot more going on.
Well, you bring up a gambit of questions that I have. We'll still talk about baseball and Pepperdine in that portion of your career, but if you don't mind me asking, you just said these are the most sought after. These are the studio musicians that have been around for a while. I'm imagining there's this little chess match that's being played in a good way. Hey guys, thank you for helping me out with my music. Here's what I want it to sound like. Okay, well, we'll play it. And then is there a part of you that also has the humility to go, if you know how to make it better, I'm all ears? And then they go, well, no, we're here working for you. We'll just do what you want. And no, I want you to contribute. Was there any of the back and forth like that to where they got to be a part of making it sound or a little bit different from what you may have originally planned, but better in the way that, man, I thank you for, I would never have thought of adding that little extra riff there. That makes it perfect. Does that make sense why I'm asking that?
That's a great question. The session guys are so good there, and they are there to serve who they call the artist.
Sure.
And already I knew, because I knew these guys, and I played with them before.
And you asked them, you wanted them, right? You requested.
Right. So to your question, I do complete full-blown demos of the songs in my home so I'm playing everything, and I bring them into the studio. So the demos are done, and the demos are explaining to them when they hear them. So we come into the studio and we sit down and we listen, and so they know, they get it right away. Are you still there?
Yes, absolutely.
I think I lost Harper.
Okay.
So then we have a discussion. So they're there. They chart the song. So I already made charts, and when you go to Nashville, you got to hire these guys, and there's certain things that are expected, and there's always a leader. You have to have a leader, and Dave in this case happened to be the leader. So I gave Dave everything, and he charted everything using a Nashville number system. And so they have the music, and then they make notes, and we discuss the song after listening to the demos in the control room. Then we go out there, and everybody already, these guys are so good, Harper. Yeah. You have no idea. So they've already got these ideas, and then we count it down. We talk a little bit more once we're so I'm in the booth playing with them. And 1, 2, 3, 4, we go for it, and it's normally the first or second. At most, there's 2 takes, and then we come in. There might be what we call a punch-in, which means one guy might want to come in and change something, or or whatever in a particular moment in the song. When I first started doing this, we had tape. Now it's all digital, so I mean they can do that in split seconds. And then like Kenny Greenberg, I was talking about, will come in. And at the same time, he'll put a different guitar part on. So to answer your question, are you kidding me? I'm not only open, but praying and hoping these guys give me whatever they have to give, and so thankful for it. So there's so much of that on there, but at the same time, it's all within the sound that we've agreed on that we want to get.
Many years ago, I heard David Bowie do an interview. And they said, what's it like for you in the studio? He goes, well, I put a song together, and then once it's done and everybody sits around and listens to it, he goes, this is just David talking. He goes, it's like I'm standing there in front of every one of them and I'm butt naked. And at the end of the song, what do you think? and it resonated with me, not in that he's butt naked. It's just, I'm giving you air, space. Keith Richards says when you start with the song, you have nothing but silence, and then now fill that. And the what do you think part is the magic in that you've got respected musicians all around you, and if one of them says, "I really like that," that's probably all you need to know. But if we added, what if we added an E minor in the bridge and it sounds even better? Those are the things that I'm sure you're looking for. Just help me make this to be the best it possibly can be and the coolest of the process.
Yeah. Well, they're not changing the structure of the song much,
Okay.
or changing or adding chords, or other than embellishing chords. So, but I'm just I get out of the way. I'm just like, when you got guys like that, I mean, we're talking about insanely professional and talented people. Yeah, I just get out of the way and take whatever I can. Now, the advantage I also have nowadays, whereas before it was a little bit more difficult, is now I can take all those tracks, so they call them rhythm tracks, and now I get to do overdubs. If I wanted to do a completely live album, that would be different. So I'm now taking those tracks, and if there's something that doesn't jive, I'm gonna take it out, or I'm gonna, like, for example, I overdub bass on a few of the songs because it just wasn't right, and then all of my vocals, all my guitar overdubs. So now I get to mold it and make it exactly how I want it. So the rhythm tracks are excellent, but then the real the icing on the cake, it comes later. But when you got guys like that, I know I have something already fantastic to work with.
I can verify that Brad is a perfectionist because I've been around him his whole life, and everything he does as well as he possibly can do, whether it's baseball, music, acting, or just anything else, or investment banking, which is another thing Brad has succeeded at incredibly enough. But, just speaking of that song, Brad, I mean, it's got pretty girls, the beach, and the desert. And I mean, that's our youth. So,
that's all you need, right? A good song, pretty girls, and a beach. That's all you need in life, right?
It's absolutely. It's very simple, and that's what makes it great. Now we're going to get back to your music, and we're going to play another song later. But we're going to stay in a somewhat chronological period. We get to Pepperdine. Now Brad is a scion of the University of Southern California. His parents went to USC. His older brother went to USC. His younger brother Darren went to USC. And his good friend Steve Travers went to USC. But Brad ends up at Pepperdine University to play baseball, and it happens to be during the same period of time I'm at Santa Monica Junior College, which is only a short distance away, which I'm sure your dad was very pleased to discover that we could see each other on weeknights. But we're not going to get into that right now, or that I had a car and we were running around willy-nilly throughout Los Angeles at age 19. But let's forget about those aspects and talk about how you got into Pepperdine, why Pepperdine, and the team that you had in 1979.
Is that your dog?
That's Harper, I believe.
Oh, it's Harper's dog.
Yeah.
A
leaf fell on, and she's barking at the leaf. Now she got the other dog. I'm sorry.
Good. No, I love dogs, and I've been campaigning my wife to get a dog, and she's being reluctant about it. Anyway, good question. I've always felt, and I don't know, this might sound a little bit religious or out there. I've always felt that there was a guiding force in my life, that there was literally a guardian angel sort of guiding me along the way. I don't know if you guys have ever felt that, but at various critical points in my life, things have happened, and I've just made choices that happened to turn out well. And that was one of them. So after Redwood, actually my senior year of Redwood, I actually moved down. My parents were split at the time, and I moved down to be with my mother and my younger siblings for my senior year. And that was in Ventura High School. So back down to Southern California, and Ventura High School. Now this was after the Al Endress program. I walk onto the baseball team there, and it happens to be a darn good team. I mean, not up to Al's standards by any means, but by that time I had sort of had a growth spurt, and now I was throwing the ball a lot harder, and I became the number one pitcher on that team. There were two of us. There was another guy, Mark, was also we were both. He was the righty, I was the lefty, and we had a very good team. And it was a very competitive league in Ventura. We had Buena. We had a lot of good baseball players, and one of my teammates was Brooke Jacoby. He played center field, and we became close friends. And he eventually signed and played with Atlanta and Cleveland. He had over 30 home runs a couple times, I think, in the bigs. So there was some talent, and we were no slouches. After that season, I made the All-Stars of that league, and we played in the summer, and we played American Legion ball. And so then we played some really good teams. We were facing guys like Tim Leary. Leary. What was Leary's first name?
Larry, Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Tim. Yeah.
And anyway, some really phenomenal players who went on to major careers, and then Brooke and I, and there was another guy. We were like the Three Musketeers. Izzy Vargas, who was our shortstop. We were kind of like a group, and we were recruited to play at Moore Park Junior College by a guy named Jerry White. I don't know if you guys know who Jerry White
I know
was.
him. A referee too, wasn't he, Brad?
He was a referee.
Yeah.
He had an outstanding junior college baseball program out at Moore Park, which was brand new at the time. It's this amazing, beautiful campus out in Moore Park. And we went out there together. By the way, Jerry, I think, is still, I talked to him a couple of years ago, is the official scorekeeper, or one of the official scorekeepers of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
So there you go. Things didn't. Brooke was not happy with Jerry, and Brooke and Izzy decided to go back to Ventura College. So I stayed at Moore Park and finished out my season there, and we played a game, at least one game, at Pepperdine. And so I got to go to Pepperdine to pitch against the Waves in sort of like a exhibition type of game.
Fall ball.
And I'll never forget walking onto that field. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, we kept that field pristine at Redwood, but this was a whole different ball game. I mean, they had palm trees, and you would overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The infield was like literally a golf green. It was this low-cut grass. Everything was pristine and perfect, and they were building a brand new stadium at the time. And so I got but I remember facing these guys, and they had beards, and I mean, these were grown men, and just a whole different level of competition. But I did okay, and I must have opened a couple of eyes. And so that was my introduction to Pepperdine, but I was not recruited. I was not recruited to play there. And back to the Guardian Angel thing, I think something, I knew I didn't want to stay at JUCO, so I just started submitting applications to various colleges. I applied to some colleges back east in New York. I applied to Hawaii. I applied to all these colleges, and I think I only got one or two acceptances, and one of them was Pepperdine. And I thought, what? and I got a financial scholarship and an academic scholarship. So I was able to go to Pepperdine without being recruited, and then I walked on. And of course, they knew me and accepted me on the team, but I was not recruited to play there. So they arranged then afterwards for me to get more scholarships. The team did, and to get work study. I would go into the. One of my tough jobs was sitting in the gym and passing out towels. So that paid for a lot of the tuition too. So that's how I got into Pepperdine.
Well, in 1979, Pepperdine went to the College World Series. Their rival was Cal State Fullerton. I knew, because of you and because I was at Santa Monica and also for other reasons, I knew almost all the players at Pepperdine. I knew a lot of the players at Fullerton. Later, an enormous number of players from both those schools played with me in the A's organization. But in 79, you had this incredible Pepperdine baseball team. Now, that team goes to Fresno and plays in a tournament and wins something like 7 games in 6 days. And they return, this is like on Easter Sunday or something like this. I don't know if I got all my facts right, but I'm trying to do as best I can. They return and they've got a nice winning streak going, and the coach realizes they've got like a makeup game against Stanford on Monday and they have no pitchers. And it's like, who are we going to throw? Let's throw Cole. Tell us about that game against the Stanford Cardinal.
Well, I had pitched before that, Steve, but yeah, I wasn't one of the starting rotation, but they knew that they could trust me. I had never started. I don't think, other than a fall ball game or something. I don't think I ever started a game, and certainly not against a Division I school and an important game like that. So yeah. Let me back that up, because this team was pretty amazing. We had Mike Gates, who was just honored this past weekend at Pepperdine University. He was inducted into the Pepperdine University of Hall of Fame. I got to see a lot of the guys, which was great. We had Chuck Fick behind the plate. We had Tim Gloyd at short. We had amazing pitching, Gary Kurtz, Ted Pallas. We had, just an exceptional group of guys. Now, most of them were junior college transfers, like I was. And they were put together by a guy named Bob Zuber. So Coach Zuber was an infamous coach, very, how shall we say, exuberant, pardon the pun, and let people know how he felt about things. But he was no longer there. When I came in, Dave Gorey came in at the same time. Okay, Dave Gorey coached at Santa Barbara, I believe, right? So had a lot of wins under his belt. Complete opposite, apparently, because I didn't play for Zuber, of Zuber. And he took these guys and had a whole different approach with them. And Dave Gorey, ended up with over 500 wins. I think he's in various Hall of Fames. These guys, I remember the season started, and we knew we were good. We knew we weren't maybe the best of the best, but we had guys that were experienced, that had played a lot, that had played in Alaska in the summer, some of them have signed, contracts or exclusive deals with various sponsors, things like that. So, they knew they were good, but we dropped a game or two early in the season. Now, there's a picture of Dave. Wow, this guy was such a gentleman and such a knowledgeable and just another one of those guys that you looked up to, a father figure to all of us, to me, and always had great advice, and he had a calmness, a presence about him. At the same time, he had that look at him. You didn't want to mess with him either. But these guys held a meeting without Dave after a couple of losses. I can't remember who we lost to. And they held a team meeting, and they said, "Listen, we're not going to we're not going to lose. We're going to win. We know how to win. We knew how to win. And if we just did the things that we could do best. And I don't know, Steve, you might have the stats on this, but we rolled off, I don't know how many, 12, 13 in a row, maybe lost one, then another 12 in a row. We set the record for wins that year. And we were just on a roll. So back to Stanford, when it's baseball, like look at Dodgers last night. They looked terrible last night. Let's face it. It's such a game of streaks, of ups and downs. Well, we were on a streak. We were hot. And so they called me up. They said, you're starting today. I said, okay. I didn't even think about it. I said, yeah, let's do it. So I went on there, and when you got catchers like Chuck Fick, it really changes. Steve, you're a pitcher. And when you've got a good,
Chuck Fick later, so I know exactly.
Yeah. Well, when you've got a catcher of that talent, that knowledge, and he knew all the other batters. He knew the other guys that were hitting. He knew how to set up, and he knew. I never shook him off. I wouldn't even think about that. So we just boom, 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 started getting guys out. I had a good hook. I had a really good fastball. I threw a two-seamer, so it would go away from the right-handed batters. I picked a guy off that game, and it was just a great continuation of that streak. Great moment for our team.
Well, that was, as I mentioned, that team ended up going to the College World Series and finishing third. Now, regarding Chuck Fick, I had actually tried to get Chuck to be on this show, and for some reason, I talked to his brother, and he said he's doing fine, but he didn't want to be on the show or didn't want to return my call. But I was going to do a show called Pepperdine Goes Hollywood, because we have Brad Cole, and Brad Cole is an actor who's acted in Hollywood and France and New York, but so has Chuck Fick. Chuck Fick played with me in the A's organization, and then after a few years didn't make it to the big leagues, and then he was an actor on Hill Street Blues. Then Harper, if you ever remember the movie Mr. Baseball, he was the first baseman when Tom Selleck is leading off first base in a game in Japan. He says to Tom Selleck, hey, do you got any naked pictures of your wife? And Selleck says, no, but I got some of yours. And then later, Chuck was the catcher in one of the greatest scenes of all time, the final scene at Dodger Stadium in A Naked Gun, with Leslie Nielsen playing the umpire. And the exasperated catcher is the aforementioned Chuck Fick, who was a great guy. We're going to have to get him on this show. But anyway, today it's about Brad Cole. Now, you hurt your arm.
Well, let me just say quickly about Chuck. I just saw Chuck this week, so he's fine. Don't worry, he's fine. I saw him just a few days ago in Malibu, and there was a sense of humor that I really need to bring that up about this team. And what he said in that movie, we said a lot worse when we were playing. I don't know, because my son is playing now. He's a sophomore at a junior college up in Oregon right now, and I coached him through Little League, through Pony League, and then of course coached from the sidelines like every unwanted dad when he was in high school. And then they don't say and do the things that we used to do, Steve. I mean, I remember the ragging. We used to call it ragging that used to go on, especially when we would play Fullerton and Long Beach State and these guys, because, I mean, a lot of us knew each other, and we would just, say things that you could not say. I'm surprised Dave Gorey let us get away with it. But that was a lot of winning. I think we got a lot of wins just by our ragging ability. These guys were so funny, so clever, and so fast. Anyway, I just had to bring that up.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right, and that was a feature of baseball at that time. Now, the funny thing about you, Brad, is you really are a Renaissance man. You're a man of the arts and everything, but you're also a jock. You used to chew Skoal tobacco, and in fact, your nickname Skull because your name is Cole. Everybody called you Skull. And you probably could have signed probably with the Oakland A's because it seemed like virtually every one of your teammates played for the Oakland A's. I think they had a scout who sat in the stands and never wanted to go anywhere and just never leave Malibu. And he signed every player to an Oakland contract. But you hurt your arm and you have got an extra semester to graduate. And you're kind of thinking, what am I going to do with myself? And you make some interesting decisions. Just to aforemention what you're getting at, there was an actress at Pepperdine during that time named Phoebe Cates, who later achieved great fame in the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Pepperdine had a very good drama program, and you were drawn to it. Give us some of the details about how that went.
Well, once again, there's that guiding force, whatever it is. I don't know what led me to that. I had surgery on my shoulder my senior year down at the Job Curling Clinic. They were doing the operation du jour, which was they were removing what they call the acromial ligament here. They thought that was the answer. And Ted had it done and I had it done. So they were running us through that. Of course, I couldn't really throw with the same velocity after that. But anyway, while I was nursing that shoulder my senior year, there was a sign and another ball player, Ty Leoy, and us and myself, we were walking along the campus and saw a poster for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest tryouts. And I had my eye on a certain actress that was in the drama department at the time, which shall remain nameless. But Ty and I looked at each other. Let's go do this. We can, because they were looking for the crazies, the kooks. So we'll just go have fun. And I think we had a little shot of liquor. Don't tell anybody. And we went up there on stage at the tryouts and just acted like complete idiots and fools just for a laugh. And lo and behold, that must have caught the eye of someone, because I'm down at the field going through my rehab and running and stuff. And a friend of mine, Laura Kennedy, who ended up being one of the major casting directors. It's amazing, all these characters that we've met in our lives, Steve, who became a major casting director, who cast many films. Laura Kennedy was in the drama department at that time. She comes driving up and says, Brad, get over here. I said, well, yeah, what's going on? She said, you're on the callback sheet. What are you doing? I said, what's a callback sheet? Well, apparently I had been called back because they wanted to cast me in the play or see me again for something. And so Laura, I said, okay, I'm done. And she drives me up to the theater, and I meet the director, Eileen Daniel. And Eileen has me read for the main part, the main character, R.P. McMurphy. And so there I am up on stage with the Samuel French book, and I read it. And then she asked me to jump through a few more hoops. And she said, thank you very much. I said, okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm thinking, oh, great. Maybe I can get one of the parts of one of the crazy guys. This will be fun. Then I get another call back. And this time she brings me into her office and she starts talking to me about theater and the importance of theater and the hallowed shrine that it is. And you better be taking this shit seriously. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. And then she threw the script at me again. And there's this one part in the play, and it's in the movie too, where there's McMurphy's at wit's end, and the Nurse Ratched has driven him to his breaking point. And there's a circuit breaker. And there's this giant piece of machinery, and McMurphy is this big, strong guy, right? And then they get in, the crazies around him start talking, and they say, and he makes a bet that he can lift that up, and so he tries to lift it up, He can't do it. He tries to lift it up again. He can't. And he emotionally breaks down. So she had me do that scene for her, in front of her, to see if I could do that. So I did my best. Mind you, I'm not a trained actor at this point, other than, high school plays and grade school stuff. And so I did the best, and I broke down and everything. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I'm going, uh-oh. She threw the script at me. She says, "You got the part." And I was shocked. I was so excited, but I didn't really know what to do or what to think about it.
A lot of dialogue too.
So this was a big deal, because this is Pepperdine University. You've got a drama department where they've recruited kids, like they recruit guys for baseball or for other sports. And these kids are there, for these parts. And, they've got, some of them are on scholarships, and everybody, this is the play of the year. And she really went out on a limb, but she just couldn't. There was no McMurphy there. There was a couple of guys that maybe could have done it. And she ran out on a limb for me and gave me that part. So then she also, gave me she gave me the Uta Hagen Respect for Acting book, Respect for Acting, Respect, and a number of other books. But she really gave me that Hagen book, because that's the foundation of method acting. And that was my first introduction into that. So I studied, and I threw myself into this, and it was just an amazing experience. Along the way, so we're a couple of weeks into now don't forget, this is a brand new theater complex. Millions of dollars they've spent on this theater complex. Brand new. The Smothers Theater was brand new. It had the hydraulics. It had it was a beautiful seats, and the state of the art back then. And Eileen maybe got a little bit nervous during rehearsals. And I found out later that she had called Jason Miller, who lived in Malibu. Don't forget, now we're in Malibu. The other reason why this is so coveted.
Are we talking about Jason Miller, the Exorcist?
We're talking about Jason Miller, the playwright, the Pulitzer Prize winning playwright, and yes, who played the priest in The Exorcist. But that, to my point, is the Malibu community, the colony is right there. You've got all these stars and directors and producers that come to these shows to see the up and coming talent. So that's another reason why this is so important. So she calls apparently Jason to get him to play McMurphy, and she was going to kick me out. And she told me that story afterwards. And first, Jason was going to do it. He was that close. And something came up where he had some other commitment and didn't do it. So thank you, Jason, for not taking that point apart. Long story short, the show goes on. It's a huge hit. And it's a great play, it's just an amazing play and huge hit. End of the year, I'm nominated and win the Best Actor award, much to the chagrin of these theater people. I'm sorry, theater people. Who's this baseball guy? So there I was with my Best Actor award.
Yeah, I have to ask you, Brad, if you don't mind me saying real quick, Steven, was there a moment that you had there when you got the part and she gave you the script? What have I got myself into? I I wanted to be Martini or,
that's a great question. I was too young and dumb to think about that. If I would have thought about it, Harper, I would have said, "What the are you doing?"
Yeah.
But I was just too naive and too excited. And I asked Steve. I was fearless back then.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I was ready for anything. Bring on the giants. Got me into trouble a lot of times. But to answer your question, no. Obviously, other people did think that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no, I just went for it, and I think that's the way you gotta approach things. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was doing this. I was going to do it, and then after into the rehearsals, I think I did do a couple of things that Eileen was like, "Oh wow, that's good." So at one point, there's in the play, all the lunatics are in a circle, including McMurphy, and the doctor, the psychologist is in there, and Nurse Ratchet's in there too, and they're going around and they're talking to all, and so McMurphy does something crazy to prove to the doc that he's crazy, and Eileen, the director, says to me, "Do something crazy," and I didn't know what. I said, "Okay," and I just like. So I took a few steps back. I'm saying the dialogue, and then I leap into the air like I'm diving into a pool, because the line had something to do with swimming or something. And I leapt into the air, came down on my stomach, and pretended to try to swim. And then I turned over and I did the backstroke on the floor, and I said, "Come on in, Doc. The water's warm," and just started improvising. And then also there's the moment where they're watching the World Series. This is one of the greatest scenes ever written, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so that was, she told me, because there was limited dialogue in the play. And Jack Nicholson did a great job. And obviously they wrote it, or he improvised some stuff. So I totally improvised that live on stage every single night. And now, because of Steve and my relationship with Steve, this was like going home, because we would do this kind of stuff since we were kids. So I knew everybody on that 63 Dodger team. I knew every player. I knew what their nuances were. So I was just going off and riffing on the World Series game. And she was like, "How do you know all that? Did you memorize?" I said, "No, that's just coming off the top of my head." So
Yeah.
That's, I think, convinced her that she had made the right choice.
Did you have a little fun with yourself, and that each time you would perform it, you do a different player and a different dialogue during that? Did you have the?
Yeah, I didn't put handcuffs on myself. I did have a story that was kind of like the actual story. I can't remember it now, of what happened in a certain game.
Right.
That was exciting. And then the home run is hit. And I knew the players, and I sort of made up this game in my head. So I kind of knew I had the basics of an outline of where I would go. But then all of the Vin Scully dialogue would just be coming in off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask one other thing. You mentioned that scene, the one that I get, the subtle humor, Dr. Scanlon, the famous Dr. Scanlon,
The famous
Mr. Harding, and then Dr. Martini when he's introducing everybody else. That scene cracks me up every time, because he never missed an opportunity to make Harding feel like an idiot. And I respect the movie for allowing Jack to do stuff like that. It was amazing. Did you have some fun with the script in other ways?
Oh, well, you can imagine. There was, we had a really great cast too. And you talk about Harding, the guy who was playing Harding, I think his name was Adam. Oh gosh, why do I forget Adam's name? He's a fantastic actor, went on to do Shakespeare. Adam. Anyway, we could barely keep a straight face, and you got 500 people out there. So, but yeah, we had a lot of fun with that kind of stuff. It's just a great show.
I have to tell a story that is connected to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And Brad, you remember a teammate of ours at Redwood named Mickey Meister. And Mickey was a very good pitcher at USC when I was at USC. And one day I walk into this bar called the 502 Club, and Mickey's talking to a nice looking girl. He motions me over and he goes, "Hey, I want you to meet Jennifer." And then he leans over and he goes, "Jack Nicholson's daughter." And you know me, I had to say something. I had to be a ham. I said, Billy, a young guy like you, what you do committing yourself into a place like this? You ought to be out bird dogging chicks. And she just looks at Meister and goes, another one, and leaves. And Meister just looks at me and goes, Travers, you really know how to talk to women. But getting back to USC, I'd gone into the pros, played a little bit. Now I'm at USC. You basically were my roommate at USC, more or less, staying in my apartment every week.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah,
you were pretty.
We partied a lot down there. That's true.
We had a good time, and we'll just let that stick to the imagination. But I heard something you said on one of your promos just a week or so ago. You were in Malibu, and you said you were at the site of an old bookstore that you had gone to. You're talking about your guardian angels. And this speaks to the next aspect of your life, because you come out of Pepperdine and you kind of got, I'm not going to say a big head, but it's like, wow, I just won an award for playing the McMurphy role in a pretty big play, and a lot of people have seen it. I'm going to hit Hollywood. And this guy sees you, and why don't you tell us what he said and really how that changed the course of your life? Because this, in my opinion, was the best move you ever made.
Yeah. So after Cuckoo's Nest, I still had the rest of that year, and I was cast in Wait Until Dark. So I was the lead in Wait Until Dark. I played Richard Crenna's role in that on stage. So that was a good experience. Did another show in the small theater there called TV by Jean-Claude Van Italie. So now I'm really getting versed, and I'm performing and getting a little bit more experience on the stage. And then by the time I graduate, I'm going into Hollywood with a friend of mine, Tim. And he wanted to be a director. So there we were, these young kids from Pepperdine. We shared an apartment in Hollywood and just started knocking on doors, I started trying to find an agent was the first thing. And get sent out on castings and things like that. This was early 80s. It's funny because I'm listening now to Charlie Sheen is out there promoting his new book, and he's got a Netflix special, and he was talking about this Sean Penn, there's Charlie, there's this group of guys that just came up at that time, and so they're all going, and me too, for these same types of parts. And this is still the era of the director in Hollywood. And the director was the guy that could make the movie that he wanted to make. The auteur. And that's changed a lot now. But anyway, there were so many guys like me, and trying to break into this business. I took an acting class by a very famous Hollywood acting teacher. I joined that class, Estelle Harmon, and so I would go in and to my acting class and just study, and we would work scenes and then try to go out on auditions. It was a long, hard road with no promise and no results for a long time. And, we were doing what we could to make money. We were basically starving. We were living literally on bologna sandwiches. And, so I'm in Malibu for some reason, and I'm in that bookstore that you're talking about, and I'm in the theater section, and this mysterious guy comes up to me and introduces himself and says I can't remember, he said he was a director or he's something, and he said hey, are you an actor? I said, oh, well, yeah. And he said, well, I think I know what you're going through. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you are one of 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 guys just like you. So what do you have that's different? What do you have to bring to the table? And I said, well, I don't know. I could didn't know how to answer them because I didn't really have much to bring to the table other than the limited experiences that I had. And he said, "Get out of here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, get out of this town. Go learn something. Go experience the world. Go fill up your backpack with experiences." And I don't know, that just struck me, and I just was led by this thought, and I'll be damned if that isn't exactly what I did. So I had some money saved through summer jobs. I bought a bus ticket, a Greyhound bus ticket. At the time, you could buy a bus ticket, maybe it still exists, for a small amount of money. And as long as you kept going east, so you could go from San Francisco, as long as it was east, so to Reno, you could go to, Salt Lake, Denver. This is what I did. St. Louis. The ticket was good. You couldn't backtrack. So I jumped on that Greyhound bus, and that was the start of a huge, long journey that led me to Europe and various adventures. So that's how that sort of started.
Well, if you shall recall, I met you in New York. We hung out there, and then somehow, I don't think we had more than $100 between us. How we pulled this off, I have no idea. But we flew to London. We didn't know we were going to London until we got on the plane 2 minutes before. We went to London. I stayed in London. You went to Paris. Then I went and I met you in Paris. I eventually came back, and you stayed in Paris. And you wrote a play with your brother Darren and with...
No, Darren did not write the play. I brought Darren over to help with the play. No, I wrote the play with a guy named Sean McKeon.
That's right. And Solano, your friend Tim, he came over. Then Darren later came over. You did a play. You were in France, and you forged a career for yourself in the French theater and on French television and French movies throughout the 1980s. And this is really an amazing period. And that's exactly what that guy told you to do, because you become the guy who brings something to the table. The young American who can speak French. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you not on a television show that was, shall we say, a French version of Three's Company?
Yeah. Of course, this is many years later, but yeah, just we're spending a lot of time here. But to leap forward, I go to Europe. I travel around Europe. I'm with just a guitar, and I'm busking in the streets to eat. Met so many amazing people and friends. Played in various clubs and just had an amazing experience. Ended up getting an agent in Paris. First got cast in a play there. They had an American theater there. And I got cast in a play there. And then I wrote a play and produced that, created my own theater company. A long story short, I ended up being like the American guy, the go-to guy in Paris if you needed someone in Paris. Because, these American productions would come over there, and to bring an actor over, especially for a minor part, that's a tremendous expense. So they would just hire me because I'm already there and I don't cost very much. They don't have to put me up in a hotel or anything. So I got a couple of great parts there and worked with great actors. Martin Sheen, I did a movie with him, and to bring up the Sheens again. And so long story short, I do end up having quite a great career over there in Europe.
And you also went to London and went to, if I recall correctly, the hometown of William Shakespeare, and studied with one of the leading Shakespearean experts, and did Shakespeare on stage, or certainly studied Shakespeare. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that wasn't in Stratford. That was actually in London. The teacher was Michael McCallion. He was a teacher at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. I took private lessons with him at his home. He taught me so much about Shakespeare and the iambic pentameter and the verse, and how Shakespeare was telling you exactly in the way it is written how to perform it, how to enunciate, how to pronounce it. It's all there. It's really fascinating. If you ever do a deep dive, I recommend it. It's amazing, the genius of Shakespeare. So I studied with him and did a few things in London too. I got cast in a couple of plays there. I went over to into Germany and did a play at a theater there. All the while I'm there, I'm having a lot of great success. So at least for me, it's great success. And at the same time, there's something deep down inside of me saying, I won't ever feel like I've made it until I make it in America. And so all those years over there, filling up my backpack like the guy told me to do, and getting the experience. But all the while, I knew I got to come back because I don't feel like I've made it yet.
So that leads us to this period of time where I'm beginning to be a screenwriter, and you moved to Los Angeles, and I moved actually where you were living in Manhattan Beach, and I was in Hermosa Beach. And I remember I was writing screenplays. In fact, I wrote some screenplays for you, a couple of which really should have been made. The Bo Belinsky screenplay in particular.
Bo Belinsky, yeah, that would have been like a hand in glove for me.
But I remember what you told me, and you said, if you're going to be a writer, you have to know Shakespeare. And you gave me,
I said that.
Doing this, you gave me your complete works of Shakespeare. I think, and I read it. I read a lot of those, and I actually went to see quite a few Shakespeare productions, local productions in and around Los Angeles, and also the Shakespeare Festival in Lake Tahoe, and really tried to glean as much as I could, and use that in my writing career. So I want to thank you very much for that. And this was right around the time that you landed a big job. Now you had gone back to Paris, and you had performed on stage with the great Jean-Paul Belmondo, which is really quite amazing. And then, was that what led to you being cast in A Guiding Light, or what was the circumstance that led to
I never thought of that, but that's probably true. I would go back and forth by this time because things weren't really happening too much in Hollywood. I did a couple of small things, and then I had the opportunity to do the play with Jean-Paul. This was a pretty amazing experience also. This is at the Théâtre Marigny on the Champs-Élysées. And when Jean-Paul Belmondo does a play, it's all of France is coming to that play. And we're talking about politicians, presidents, movie stars. Everybody is coming to see that show. And it's a huge production. So he was playing Frederic in the Boulevard de Crime. So he was playing a kind of like an Edmund Kean type of character. And so this is set back in the 1800s, and I'm playing the Duke of York. So we're dressed in these capes and these wonderful costumes, and it's just this giant production. And I have never experienced stage fright until then. That was because this is all in French, mind you, and not only French, but it has to be perfect French because the Duke of York's French has to be even better than the Frenchman's French. And so there's no room for me to, ad lib or, I've got to be right on the dialogue. And my scenes, I've got 3 scenes. 2 of them are just me and Jean-Paul on stage. So me and the legend of France on stage, and all of Paris is watching out there. So, God, it was torturous. I remember every night just worried to death that I was going to dry up. And sure enough, about halfway through the run, one night I'm out there, and I'm a young man, so I'm partying, and I'm maybe a little tired this evening.
Oh, I can't possibly imagine that you did it.
I'm there, and I'm in the middle of a sentence, of a réplique, And I stop, and I can't remember what I'm supposed to say. And so Jean-Paul is up here, upstage, and I'm sitting there facing the audience with my cane. I look at him, and this is not the text, he goes, "Ça va?" Which means, "Are you okay?" That's not And I look back at him, and here's the guardian angel again. "By the grace of God," the line comes to me, and I say it. And we finished the scene. I walked off, and oh my God, I was just horrified. Jean-Paul never said anything of it. These things happen all the time on stage. People dry up, but never me. And there you go. So I had an experience. It was amazing being backstage because my dressing room was right next to Jean-Paul's. And by the way, the rest of the cast, we're talking about, actors from the Comédie Française and these experienced, actors who've done Shakespeare, Molière, everything. And literally, I'm seeing all the stars walk by to see Jean-Paul, and all of France is coming backstage. It was one of the great experiences of my life. Yeah.
That is absolutely unbelievable. I did not know that story.
I've never told that story.
So it sounds to me, now I know you started when you got hooked up with a guiding light and you moved to New York, and this was roughly about a 10-year period of time, if I recall correctly. You originally were playing a corrupt police officer. Wait, did you play the corrupt police officer first? No.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what you were leading into before. So while I'm doing this show, I get a call from my agent in Hollywood, and she says, Guiding Light is looking for a Prince Charming, basically. There's two first. Well, there's two princes. There was this was like the Lion King. There was the good prince, and then there was the evil prince. And so she gave me the sides. The audition sheets for the evil prince while I'm in Paris. So I'm learning this, and I had a good friend from England visiting me, and an actor friend, and he gave me this great training aid that he used for his pronunciation, and I'll never forget it. It's "He who knows aught of art must learn and then take his ease." Now, if you break that down, there's all the different vowel sounds, and each one is different. So he who knows so they're all there. So I would get that down, and I came in learning. I knew those sides backwards and forwards, and I flew into California and met the casting director, Glenn Daniels, and delivered it, and he was convinced that I was English because I had been living, and my resume is everything is in Europe. So he says, "Please take this home," and he gave me the sides for the good prince, who was the lead, and come back tomorrow. Okay, so I did. I learned those, and then I came back the next day. I delivered that, and he was blown away. And he said, "I hope you're not going anywhere, doing anything, because you're going to have to fly to New York, I'm pretty sure." So I'm saying, this guy's crazy. So I guess they showed the tape to the powers that be at CBS and the producers at Guiding Light. And I got a call that night, and they're saying, you got to get on a plane tomorrow or in a couple of days. I can't remember. So I flew to New York, met Kim Zimmer, and so mind you, I have been out of it. I had been in Europe. I don't know Guiding Light. I don't know Kim Zimmer. I don't know any of these people. I don't watch soap operas. And I was told, "Oh, well, Kim has won 5 Emmys." I'm saying, "Oh, okay." This is serious. And the audience at that time they were getting like 4 to 5 million, I think, viewers a day. So this is still in the heyday. And And this is a huge, a lot of money going to be thrown at this storyline.
Longest running storyline going back.
Well, no, the longest running show. This is a special storyline, like the Prince Charming storyline that's tailored for the star of the show, who was Kim Zimmer at the time. And so they're going to go to Puerto Rico. They're going to do all this huge Prince Charming stuff. And so I meet Kim. I have a great feeling with her. And I find out later that she wanted me, because they lined up every actor you can imagine to take this part. And she fought for me, and Glenn fought for me. And they were convinced, I'm sure, because I put together an audition tape with all the stuff from Europe, where I made myself look like I'm a big star in Europe. And CBS, I don't think, wanted me because they were unsure. But Glenn and Kim convinced them. And boom, they gave me the contract. So next thing I know, because I still have an apartment in France, I'm literally moving because I got to start right away. So they gave me some per diems to move. I moved to New York, and that lasted for 10 years. So there you go. There's like little moments in life. You never know where they lead. I could have just said, oh, I don't want to go to LA and do that audition for some silly prince. But next thing I know, I'm in New York, and I'm there for 10 years.
Well, 2 points on that. One, my daughter Elizabeth it was like every time at 2 o'clock, 2:30, whenever a guiding light came on, she goes, got to turn on a guiding light. She didn't want to miss it because Brad was coming on, and we'd go to the grocery store. And there would be these soap opera magazines, and invariably, there's your photograph. You were a big star on these soap operas with the.
It was really popular. It struck a chord. A lot of women were watching that show, and there was no Prince Charming for them at that point. And so they really, or at least a number of them, really that touched them. That story, and the writing was really good. I remember being impressed because don't forget, we're churning this stuff out an episode a day, and I was really impressed that the writing was so good with those, constraints, to be able to have to do that every day, day in and day out. So great writing, great producing, Paul Rausch, and the whole team there was just fantastic. The actors.
Yeah. And so then some changes happen in your life. You get married, you have kids, you move back to Los Angeles, and you're no longer on a guiding light, and you go through some difficulties. And this is really, in my humble opinion, where Brad Cole shines, because you're at a point in your life where you have to reinvent yourself. And you get into investment banking like your father had done, and you have to
not really. I wouldn't call it investment banking. A financial consultant. I became a financial consultant. So back to the guiding lights, so we can lead into that. And I know we're short on time here, but that's the guiding light gave me the resources to be able to pursue my music. All this time, we haven't talked much about it. I'm playing music. I'm playing in clubs. Yeah. I'm writing songs. I'm making albums, and in Europe, and I'm playing in clubs, and I'm out there trying to get the music going. And there's a great picture of me and Kim. That's Kim Zimmer. And then so Guiding Light, I created my own record label, recorded 3 albums. So I would finish my shooting for the week. On the weekend, we would choose a city. I would fly to a city and play a small club and sell my records. So I created a label. So I remember we would fly to Chicago one weekend. We would fly to Atlanta the next weekend. We would fly to Pittsburgh the next weekend, Dayton, Los Angeles. So every weekend I was out there playing gigs and selling my records. So it seems like a lot, but it really is what rejuvenated me. Doing the music, recording the music in my free time in New York, and then going out there and playing and making those albums. So Steve, you mentioned, Guiding Light comes to an end after what? How many years on television? 50 some odd years. More than that. It started in the 30s on radio, don't forget.
That's what I'm saying.
So, I mean, we're talking about 70 odd years. So, longest running show in the history of television at the time. And this is the 2008, the crash and everything. A bunch of soaps just went down. Boom, boom, boom. And ours was one of them. We didn't survive. So 2009, the show is canceled, and it's just a shock for everybody. And so what are we going to do? I had two babies. I had a 2.5-year-old and a newborn at home. And, when you're used to 10 years of that income and a lifestyle, and all of a sudden there's no income, well, it doesn't hit you right away, because you're still spending, you still have your bills, and you're still living like you used to live. And then you realize, oh, this math is not adding up. So we brought the family back out to LA because that's where my family is from. So there was some, support system. I had my brothers, my sister, my mother. And we decided to raise the family out in Los Angeles. I wasn't going to rely on acting, and to go around begging for jobs, because I thought, I was kind of like, wanted to focus more on the music, and I had enough of soap operas. Not that there's anything against them, but I did 10 years of it. I probably overstayed my welcome, and I decided to take a step back from that world. And I had a business degree from Pepperdine, and my father was a financial advisor. I decided to get my licenses, my CFP, and create a small little consulting business where I help people with their finances and help myself at the same time. So, that's what I did. And that kept us going.
Harper, I know you've got some questions. I'm going to tee up one more song. So why don't you engage in some conversation with Brad while I'm doing that?
Have I put you to sleep yet, Harper?
No, I'm fascinated. There's a certain point that I figure when you took the bus trip and you had an empty backpack, so to speak, that you were going to fill it with things. And one of the things that I admire in hearing you tell the story is that I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, you started to take ownership for things. When you get to France, you start your own company. Not many people would do that. They would be dependent on others. You learned, in my opinion, to do some things on your own and to do it with excellence and to make it the best that you possibly can. And guess what? When it works, it ties into another job. And then someone sees it and it ties in. And next thing, you're playing one of the more difficult roles in front of the premier French actors of all time. So talk a little bit about the transition from being a baseball player, but owning it when you're on the mound, to where you can own it in other parts of your life, whether it be starting your own acting company or taking this role on with the type of zeal and gusto that it demands, and being able to be responsible enough to manage all that.
Boy, that's really a great analysis and question. And especially relating it to a pitcher on the mound, because it's true. When you're out there on the mound, you can't blame anybody. You can't point to anybody else. I mean, you could say, oh gosh, these guys aren't making the plays behind me. That shouldn't have been an error. Or, oh, the guy got a lucky hit, a blooper. And, that doesn't matter. That doesn't cut any water. You're out there, you're on your own. I think what happened, Harper, is I had a few problems. I got into a little bit of trouble when I was younger. And I think I was dealing with some emotional stuff because my parents had split, and I was acting a little bit like a baby. And I had a chip on my shoulder, and I had I had a nice big excuse for everything that went wrong in my life. And when you're negative like that, you bring on more negativity. That's not a secret. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. And at one point I got into so much trouble, I'll spare you the story, but it was pretty severe, And I realized my parents were, or we're not going to be there, and or they would, but not really. And I realized, so I feel very fortunate that at about, when I was in my teens, I realized it's on you, man. You got to do it. Stop looking for attention or from your parents, from your peers, from everybody. It's on you. So something hit me in my mind at that point when that's when you grow up, right? And so I grew up at an early age, I think, and I feel very fortunate. So when I was out there, yeah, I mean, once you accept that, things become easier. And it doesn't really, I didn't. People think you did what? You went around Europe with a backpack and hitchhiking, and with no money. You played in the street your guitar to make money. They couldn't believe it. It's just like that's something that just seems so bizarre to them, or even I think they looked down upon me because of that. But I didn't look at it that way at all, obviously. And yeah, so people said, well, I wish I could go to Europe. I wish I could go live in Paris. And I always thought to myself, well, why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you?
Yeah.
Just stop what you're doing now and go do it. Do you really want to? Yeah. So all these things, I mean, the experiences of creating the theater company, that's just something that I met a friend of mine. We said, we had a common interest. We had done some plays. I had done a play in that theater called La Galerie 55 in Paris on the left bank. It was so romantic. It was so amazing. It was like I was living a dream. I literally was living a dream, and I didn't think about. I didn't think about it in any other terms. I just thought about, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. If we fall on our face, we fall on our face. As it turns out, when you put yourself out there and you really put all of yourself into it, you have a better chance of having success. And I feel very lucky, but a lot of that is just putting yourself out there. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. And before Steven puts the song on, all the while, you just mentioned it a moment ago, you've got your sixth string and you're playing. When did you go from playing covers like The Doors, let's say when you were just a kid and you're listening to music with your parents, when did you find that not only do I have the desire, but I've got the talent to be able to write my own song and to do so with the confidence that you need to go, I know that first one wasn't very good at all. EAD, anyone can do that, but I got better. And I listened to others and I learned how to play a B minor and other chords. And I improved to the point where I was happy with the type of music, because the passion, if you don't have it, you don't have it. But when you start writing your own stuff, that's a completely different job. Anyone can play covers.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of scary. I just started doing it. So this was when I was traveling around. So this is I'm like 20. So not until I'm in my early 20s. I'm 22, maybe 21, 22, because I'm just playing covers up to that point. And I had doodled and done some things and and jammed and had a couple of ideas, but never sat down and wrote a song. So that was when I was sort of, a street rat, busking, and you're playing every day. I'm playing every day for hours and hours and hours, and I just started writing this song. It was scary, to answer your question, and it was like weird, and I'm thinking, oh God, this is horrible. But I kept going, and I finished the song, and I actually performed it in a live concert. This was in Mulhouse. So in the Alsace, this lady had arranged for me to do a concert in a club out there, and there's a local radio station. So I'm on a local radio station, and I didn't play that song. I played a couple of others, and it's funny. Quick story. The newspaper was advertising the gig, and they misspelled my name as Bradley Cool. Coole.
Nice.
And so in the radio interview, the guy is saying, Bradley Cool is with us today. New. And I'm thinking, maybe I should keep this. That sounds pretty good. Bradley Cool. So I was that close to being Bradley Cool. So there you go.
Well,
Really?
someone has to be the cool guy. Joe Cool, right? Snoopy was Joe Cool.
Joe Cool.
Yeah. Was there ever a fan that says, "Hey, I really appreciate those songs that you just played a minute. Do you have any of your own?" And then you said, "No, I don't." Right? Where there was, I need to do this. I love what I'm doing. Other people recognize that I'm pretty good at it. They like it, and was necessity is the mother of invention. Was there a time that may have occurred? Like, they'll ask you, "Hey, do you know any Stone stuff?" Sure. And do you know any of this? Yeah. But what about an original? Was that part of the emphasis behind it as well?
Well, that started in earnest when I made my first album. So I was on a TV show, and I owe it all to an amazing guy and an amazing producer. He's quite famous in France. His name is Jean-Luc Azoulay. And I was on this TV show, which blew up once again. I'm just in the right place at the right time. So we were on. There were basically three. There were a couple others, but basically three television stations at the time: TF1, Antenne 2, and FR3. And we were on a hit show called Les Filles d'à Côté, which was kind of like a Three's Company type of sitcom. We shot that as a daily, though. So instead of having the whole week, we would have only a day to shoot it. Became this freak cult show. There was another sister show called Helen and the Boys, and all of France watched it. So Jean-Luc was also very good at cultivating what he had, and he had one of the girls in Helen and the Garçon, Helen, had a big, huge #1 hit with a song, and he had a bunch of other artists, and he said, and he knew I played and sang, and he said, have you got some music? Just like you were asking. And I said, oh yeah, I do, lying through my teeth. I mean, I had a handful of songs. Yeah. And he said, well, let's hear what you have. And he let me use his state-of-the-art studio there. So I went in there with a guy named Mark Ashton, who was with a group who had a big hit called Sympathy. The group was called Rare Bird. Look that up, Steve. That's another big hit over there. So Mark and I did a couple songs, and then I wrote a whole album of songs, went in there and demoed them in his studio. He loved it, and boom, I'm going to Nashville to record my album. So that's really what put the songwriting into another gear.
Well, it's gone a long way, hasn't it, Steven? And we get a special treat, don't we? Steven, talk a little bit about the debut here.
Yeah, and I have a little bit to say. This is a song that Brad has called A Country Road at Night. And he actually let me hear that song a couple months back when he was getting his album ready, and he wanted my opinion along with some other people. And there's a line in that song, but it's funny. Brad grew up with a very strict Catholic father, and he has a line in this song it's from the New Testament. I think it's in there twice, but it's in the Gospel of Matthew. Get thee behind me, Satan. And this is interesting. He's walking along a country road, and people start thinking a little bit about God and their existence when they're walking in nature. But it also reminds me of a very apocryphal story about a jazz musician in the 20s or 30s named Robert Johnson, who was walking on a country road and apparently brought forth the invocation not of God, but of Satan. And after that, he became a great musician. Brad goes the opposite direction. He invokes God in this song, and it's Get Thee Behind Me, Satan. And this is from his latest album. This is A Country Road at Night. We're going to listen to this.
Walking down a country road at night. The stars are out, the air is fresh, and the moon is shining bright. How trivial my worries seem, how heavy turns to light when I'm walking down this country road at night. You and I will always need salvation through all time. When you hear the night birds sing, you tell Satan, get behind. Walking down this country road at night, stars are out, the air is fresh and the moon is shining bright. You come to me in my heart, in my soul tonight, when I'm walking down this country road at night. Just leave it all behind and find your peace of mind. You and I were meant to be together side by side. Over the hills into the sea, hand in hand we'll go through time. Walking down the country road at night, it's in my heart, it's in my soul, my spirit's still alive. I can find just what I need, it's clear and in plain sight when I'm walking down a country road at night. Walking down a country road at night. Walking down a country road at night.
Well done, Brad. You could play that at the beginning, the middle, or the end of any show, and you're going to have about everybody there is either be clapping, snapping their fingers, stomping their feet a little bit, because that's just good old-fashioned music. It's got a little bit of almost a mountainy bluegrass kind of thing flavor to it as well, but you also make it very unique. It sounds like something different that I've heard before. I was thinking, I've heard it, but you made it original. You changed a few things to it to make it yours. That's what I admire about it.
Thank you. I remember bringing that one in to the studio, and I don't think they got it because it's just like and so they said, okay, we'll play this. I could see them in their, secretly shaking in their heads, like, what the heck is this? So Steve is doing this drums off the top, this sort of like he's got a double hit on the snare, and so I went back. This is like we were talking about before. I went back, and so I said, no. So here's what we're gonna do. So I took out the whole band in the front, and this is later when we're editing. And I said, no, it's got to be. I want this feeling of being of space. Of you're on the country road, there's stars, the moon is out, you're alone, the air is fresh, and there's sort of whispering, sort of vocal, and just the guitar. And it's about think about all the crap and all the shit that's going on in the world right now. And because of these phones and what we're doing right now, there's just so much, and I see it with my kids, that there's just so much being bombarded, and there's so much information, and there's so much people vying for your soul, for your attention, for your mind, for your body. And we need to get out of the technology. We need to get out of the city. We need to get into the fresh air. We need to leave it behind. And when we do that, all that shit goes away, and you realize, well, what's really important in life. And so that's what this song is about. I bring in the instrumentation slowly, and then there's that sort of gospel breakdown in the middle. And so, yeah, it's a spiritual song without getting religious. That I don't know where that came from, Steve. Once again, that these lyrics just sort of come, and I keep them, or I throw them away, or I try something else. And I wanted to throw that Satan line away, but I kept it because I just said, it just works. And that is, as you know, you're a Bible scholar. That's when Peter comes up to Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's calling Peter Satan. Because Peter's saying, "What are you doing? No, don't go there. Don't." He's Peter's trying to advise Jesus, and Jesus says to him, "Satan, get thee behind me." And I didn't even realize that when I wrote the song. I didn't remember the story. It's really about a guy out there, and it's about, you know, evil and noise and nonsense. That's what I'm talking about. Satan, get behind. This is what's important, and forging ahead. So that's what that song is about.
Well, and that's why I brought up the Robert Johnson story. I don't know if you're aware of Robert Johnson, who did Crossroads, because his is the exact opposite. You're going out to the beauty of nature, and you're finding God, and you're quoting scripture, which is the first thing that I loved as soon as I heard that song a couple months ago. And you're doing the exact opposite of what Robert Johnson did when he was looking for evil to help his career. You were looking for God, and you were helping your career. And I might add this: the founder of this show was a man named Vincent Turner, and I've known Vincent for many years, and he brought me on last year to start Take 5 with Steven Travers, and so he's watching. And this is what Vincent has to say. He says, first of all, outstanding guest, and God bless you, sir. And then he says of you, this gentleman is a true warrior. God bless. So you know what, my friend? I think you are reaching hearts and minds with your spirituality. It's coming through in your music, and it's come through in your life. You have reinvented yourself. You are a survivor. You are a man who has done it with integrity and honesty. Hasn't always been easy. It hasn't been easy for me. And yet we've been there for each other through thick and thin. And my gosh, it's been just a pleasure to have you on Take 5 with Steven Travers. Harper usually has some final thoughts. Harper, I'll let you finish off with Mr. Cole.
Well, let's start with Brad. Thank you for being on, Brad. What an amazing life and career that you've been able to put together, from playing wiffle ball, and we teased about paper football as a kid, and all these amazing things. Would it be fair to say that if the same gentleman walked up to you and said, "What have you got in your backpack right now?" you'd be able to respond in a completely different manner, wouldn't you?
I would start throwing shit in his face, is what I would do. Yeah, you want that? Or you want this? Or you want that? Or what do you want? I got everything here.
Yeah. Forget about it, right? But the neat thing about it, the good with the bad with the good, life lessons that have made you better in so many different ways that you would never be without having gone through them.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's been I'm going to have to take a nap after this. This has been quite a journey. So thanks for having me, and it's been a real pleasure.
Did you pick up a guitar a little while ago? Is there one nearby?
There is. It's out of tune. Why?
Well, I was going to say you could play a little outro music while we say goodbye to everybody. What is that, a Martin?
This is a Martin D28.
Brad, again, the name of the album, the upcoming album, one last time.
The name of the album is Desert Dreams, coming out in January. So I'm going to have another single. You're going to love it. It's a cover of That's How I Got to Memphis, an old Tom T. Hall song. And then I'm going to have a Christmas song, just what we need. The world needs another Christmas song. That will be out in December, and then the album in January.
And
is that going to be an original Christmas song, or are you going to play
an original Christmas song? Yes.
There we go. Love it. And it'll all be out in January.
All this can be purchased at bradleycolemusic.com, correct?
bradleycolemusic.com. You'll be able to find everything there, all the links to my social media. Okay. Just go to bradleycolemusic.com. You'll be able to find my Instagram link, my Facebook link. All these things are there for your pleasure.
Why don't you finish us up and take us away and fade us out with a little bit of...
Well, like I said, I got it. This is out of tune.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
whether it be Jean-Luc or Jean-Paul or Jean-Steven, there have been some great influences in your life and some people that made a difference. And we thank you for your ability to make a difference now with your music, obviously with your acting roles. And we hope that there are other parts that will be just perfect for you as you and your family mature and get a little bit older. You might be a grandpa someday on a different show other than Days of Our Lives. But, you know, your
I hope
career has
so.
taken you all over. And especially the fact that you were a left-handed pitcher and you and Steven got a chance to meet and tell jokes and kind of make fun of the head coach a little bit, that began something that was very unique in terms of your friendship, the relationship that you've had with him. And we value it being a part of our day today. So we want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. This has been 100 Yards of Football, and the show is Take 5 with Steven Travers. And Steven brings a guest, usually a friend, and someone who is close to him that he's had a chance to know over the decades. And we appreciate him bringing Bradley Cole to be a part of our show here today. And again, one more time, it is called Desert Dreams. It'll be available in January 2026. You got to hear A Country Road at Night. That's what we just listened to a little while ago. And there'll be other tunes and songs that are part of it at BradleyColeMusic, one word.com. Go check it out and make a purchase, would you please? Have a great day, everybody. We appreciate you being a part of it.